people who have suggested me for speaking opportunities, or someone who just sent me like a really nice follow-up email just thanking me, or I don't know, like little to big things. Those are really memorable. So I also just think since we of course want to make an impression on a number of awesome people and be remembered by them, it's so much more memorable to just like offer yourself and your mind and your connections and network and knowledge set to them. So I would recommend focusing on that. Hey guys, welcome back to the party. You've got me, Jessie Grossman, your host, founder of Whim. Very happy to be here. We have a pretty good episode today. It's a solo episode, and I thought that because it's the end of the year, we're all thinking about how can we do better for 2024. I wanted to make it business related, but I wanted to make it personal. And so today's episode is all about 3 ways, only 3, to make you a better networker. So stick around. That's what we're talking about today. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIM, the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwim.com/join. That's iamwim.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community. All right, you guys. So first and foremost, isn't networking an old, outdated term? Like either it sounds antiquated or it just sounds awful. Like if I own a networking group and I hate the word, and I just think most people do too. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys will in the comments. It's fine. But I just think there could be something better. At least I hope so. So, anyways, first of all, like, I just want to come up with a new word. Like, I don't know, community sounds better. Partnerships, partnering with each other, just like relationships, anything sounds better than networking. To me, it's like anxiety producing. And it's like, all right, I'm on a mission. I got to get business from this interaction like as soon as possible. And that is just not typical. What's more typical is you meet someone and it always seems to like, if you really foster that relationship and go through the 3 things that I'm going to be covering in a couple minutes, if you really commit to those 3 things, you will see conversion, but it takes time. And it's pretty cool when it happens, because when it happens, you're like, dang, like because I met that person, this happened. And that's like an incredible feeling because you do feel empowered. You feel as if you made that happen, which you did because you prioritized networking. I got to create another word for that. So the 3 things that we're going to be covering today are getting personal, asking how you can help the other person, and following up. Those are the 3 items. It's really that simple, you guys. Simple, not complicated, but slightly complex. So let me explain a little bit more. Okay. So the older that I've gotten, the more comfortable I've become just being more of myself. When I was like first getting started in my career, I kept my personal life completely separate. I wouldn't even like go out to drinks with people. I don't know where that came from. I don't know what I was so fearful of. But I just thought it was like the professional way to do things. I also transparently worked in like a wild environment back in the day where like things like shit would go crazy if you like went out with coworkers. So at least in that instance, it was probably the right move actually in those days. But if you're, in a safe work environment and, you're being specific about who you want to go out with, then there is so much more possibility about sharing some personal things and just becoming more vulnerable than if you squirrel it all away and put on this front as if you are like the professional bad girl. Like that is not relatable. That is like it's like robotic. And I just don't think that's what people want to be met with at all whatsoever anymore. And I also want to recognize though that like it can be hard because if theoretically you're networking with somebody that you don't know, right? So like for all intents and purposes, this is a stranger and now you're supposed to get personal with a stranger? Like that's daunting. What the heck do I share? Like how much do I share? Like what am I supposed to share? Like what is this? So like I get it. I appreciate it. So here are a couple tips. So, look, I would think about this beforehand. An elevator pitch never goes out of style. So basically you're coming up with an elevator pitch of sorts, which is what's my personal brand? What defines me and what do I want to share and put out there so that when they think of my name, they associate me with fill in the blank. Okay. So a couple ideas or examples. So for me, I love fostering animals, like love, 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 love. I could talk about it so much. It like makes me genuinely happy to talk about. And usually people are pet people or animal people, right? So one of my like elevator pitch points would be that I love to foster animals and I've done it, almost a dozen times and my experiences and I can talk about it for a while. So that's like a personal share that I would make. You could share a little bit about, I don't know, let's say you have a family member that lives overseas and you visited them a couple times and like what that's been like. It doesn't always have to be like sunshine and rainbows. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I'm the most altruistic person ever and I foster animals. Like it doesn't have to be like that actually at all. It could be something neutral. I wouldn't say like, maybe there's an element of something tough in it. Like don't divulge that, God forbid, like your family member has like a terminal illness or something, like that's not the thing to pick. But, if it's like a triumphant moment where like maybe things were hard or you did struggle, but you overcame it and that's part of your story, like that's of course that's fine. And like I think that the main thing to take away is like what do you feel comfortable talking about but that is vulnerable for you but that you can talk about for a long time. And theoretically most people in the world would have something also to contribute to that topic. That's your personal share. So think of like 2, 3 maybe max and have those in the back of your mind because when you meet someone, you could just like if I were in that scenario and my elevator pitch item would be fostering, I would say like, "Oh my gosh, I just finished fostering my most recent puppy." Like, I don't know, are you a pet person? I wouldn't even like ask, "Are you someone who fosters?" Because that's kind of rare, but I would say like, "Are you a pet person?" And they might say no. And so you also don't want to talk their ear off about something that they could care, less about. But it's a broad enough thing. Most people like pets. And then that's your in and permission to talk more about it. So getting personal is really, really important. It's not a nice to have. I think that it's the way to like really form an actual bond with someone who you're meeting. And that's the goal of networking is that it's not this one-off interaction that like it's like a quick thing and they will immediately get you business. Like think about it in the long term. Think about it as I don't want $1,000 deal. I want 50, $5,000 deals. And we're going to get there because we're going to really connect and we're going to establish a long-term like real relationship here and we're going to work together for the foreseeable future. That's the ideal situation. Okay, so that's about sharing personal things. The next item that I mentioned is ask how you can help them. This is a mindset shift because I believe that most people go into networking, especially those who aren't so experienced with it, and they think like, how can I get what I need out of this scenario, out of this situation? And the mindset shift that will occur if you think of how you can in turn help the other person, it's a really powerful thing. I think that a lot of people get uncomfortable going into meeting new people because, they're like, oh, well, like, I want new business, but like, I don't want to come across as like slimy or this type of person who's just focused on that. And I don't like, how do I navigate that situation? Well, you don't. The easier thing to do is to sort of learn more about them first and then maybe offer like, if you ever need like to pick someone's brain about, like TikTok strategy or just like what I'm sort of like what anyone's like seeing or trends or anything, or you'd like, an introduction to somebody, like I'm always here. So like, can I, I like definitely hit me up if that sounds good to you or if that sounds of value. So I would recommend approaching your relationship with that sort of a mindset, whether you explicitly say it or you imply it or you follow up and offer it. It's a real memorable attribute to have as a person. I think of people in my professional life who have done things for me, and sometimes they're small. They don't always have to be these grand gestures, but I always remember that. Like people who've suggested me for speaking opportunities or someone who just sent me like a really nice follow-up email just thanking me or I don't know like little to big things. Those are really memorable. So I also just think if you since we of course want to make a impression on a number of awesome people and be remembered by them, it's so much more memorable to just like offer yourself and your mind and your connections and network and knowledge set to them. So I would recommend focusing on that. All right, you guys, the last tip that I have, and this one is the least acted on. So few people actually do this. And it's so simple, you guys. It's just following up. So I'm a big note taker. Transparently, it's because I like definitely have ADHD. And if I didn't write stuff down, I would never remember it. I think it's because my brain is disorganized that I feel like in some aspects of my life, I have to be extra organized to sort of overcompensate for that. So, whatever your reason is, or if you don't have one, I still highly recommend getting organized. I am a big note taker. I use Evernote, but like you could just use the notes app in your phone, doesn't matter. And after you meet someone, add them to whatever system you've created and add notes because if you could, get their email address, obviously connect with them on LinkedIn. That's the best way on LinkedIn. Also, you can just show them your QR code and they scan it and never follow, but connect. Some people like the follow button on LinkedIn is the most prominent one. If I think you're over like maybe 1,000 followers or something like that, it prompts you to follow versus connect. But if you connect with me, then I get the connection request and I can accept it and I can follow or I could connect with you back, which is a more powerful thing. Because if you just follow me, I don't get any notification because you're just following me and it's like a passive thing versus a real connection. So, LinkedIn hack there. Also, the QR code is like so good. It's so helpful. So you can show the QR code to people as you're networking with them. And it's a great way to, maybe you're meeting with so many people in one night and you can't just take notes like in real time. I mean, you could, but like maybe there's just a lot of people and it's awkward to do that. Make sure you have an action item after each meeting so that you connect with them, let's say on LinkedIn after every one. So then you can then after the event, maybe in your Uber ride home, go scroll through your recent connections and then you have all those people and then from there you can parlay that into notes that you take in whatever system you have. But the goal of those notes and the goal of like capturing the people's information is so that you can follow up. So following up is something that you also don't do once. You follow up at a regular cadence and sometimes for no reason. These are like the hacks of networking, you guys. Following up as soon as you like finish a meeting and say thank you for your time, like that's expected. And also, like, it's not that mind blowing. Like, it's not that impressive. But the goal of all this is like, how can I be more memorable and how can I stand out? And so, how do you do that in a follow up? You do it when they're not expecting it. So, I always hated sending like professional, like, holiday gifts, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever gifts to people because everyone's sending gifts and it's so silly. I'm that person who sends people things at the first week of the year, or I don't know, like something like for their birthday or something like that, which is still more expected, but at least in a professional setting, it's like, oh wow, they actually like remembered my birthday. Like that's a little atypical in a professional setting. So I think that that could be a cool moment as well. Or when you just like came across maybe like a news article, for example, that was relevant to the conversation that you had had with that person, and just like, hey, I happen to see this article and it reminded me of you. And so, what are your thoughts on it? So, the moments when you follow up and you do it when it's not expected and you do it in such a way that creates further interaction, engagement between each other, that is ideal. All right, guys. This was a quickie. This was a very quick episode. Again, you want to share personal things about yourself to network. You want to ask how you can help them versus all about you. And you also want to follow up and you want to do it in a very specific way. What is the word, you guys? What do we come up with instead of networking? I think it's just like relating. No, that's stupid. I don't know. I'm still trying to rebrand networking, but WIM is trying to, modernize networking at least. And I think we need to come up with a better word. If you have a better word, leave it in a comment on our YouTube video because I would love to know what your recommendations are if you've heard other people use a term that sounds better. It's so good chatting with you guys today. I hope this is helpful for you, and we will see you next week. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at iamwim.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we could ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.